I was thinking the other day when I first came into the program, I came in the back of a police car. I was facing strong arm robbery, grand theft, burglary, violation of probation. I was 20, 21 years old. I was going nowhere fast. And I came in the back of the police car, and I'll never forget, I got out of the police car, and Hugh Murrow, the director of Dunklin, came walking down the path, and I had on handcuffs, and they had leg things on me, and he looked at the police officers. He said, "Take those off of him," you know. And later on, I thought, man, that was a prophetic word for what God would do in my life. You know, I just recently had the bandages taken off where I had tried to kill myself, and I just didn't want to face everything that I had done and you know, where my life had gotten to. And so I sit in an interview when I first came in, and they're talking to me, and I remember one of the other guys in there named Kevin challenged me. He said, "You know, you're pretty young. I don't know if you'll be able to do this." And of course that challenged something in me, and you know, that I'll show you or whatever, and which doesn't last long. Right after that, they put me out in the middle of the orange groves. I remember I'm picking oranges, and you know, part of me's thinking, man, I'm in a neo-Nazi death camp disguised as a Christian rehab. You know, I didn't know what I had gotten myself into. Spiders the size of my face, and I'm freaking out, and I'm scared, and didn't know anybody, and always very insecure anyway. And so now I'm around all these strangers. I'll never forget, there was a young girl, her name was Lori. She was Mickey Evans' daughter, the founder of Dunklin. And she befriended me when I got there. And she asked me how I was doing and all that, and made me feel safe, you know, made me feel like I was okay. And shortly after that, another gentleman came and said, "Hey, you know, I just want you to know that we all love you, we care about you, and we're here to help you." And that made me feel safe. And then there was an older lady, her name was Lil, and she came up and she kissed me on the cheek, and she said, "I'm so glad you're here." And she wrapped her arms around me and hugged me. Made me feel like I was at my grandma's house. And people just cared for me. People loved me. I didn't understand it. I didn't understand why. But I was out in those orange groves for about 2 weeks. And I remember this guy came out of one of the trees, and his name was Paige. And Paige said, "Hey, do you know Jesus?" And I said, I don't think so." He said, "Well, do you want to know?" And I just said, I need something. And all those guys came out from the trees, and they all gathered around me. The whole job site shut down, and they all gathered around me. And that day I asked Jesus into my heart. I'll never forget, man, there wasn't a lot of fireworks or anything like this, but this peace and this calm came over me. And I just had the thought that everything's gonna be okay now. So why am I sharing that? I'm sharing that because there's somebody out there right now that needs to hear this video. You're scared, you feel alone, your life's a mess, you're broken, but God's knocking. And He's been knocking on the door of your heart for a long time. I read a devotional once referred to Him as the heavenly beggar. And He just stands at the door and He knocks. And He's just waiting for you to open it. And all He wants to do is love you. All He wants to do is care for you. He's been calling you for a long time. Mess after mess, mess after mess, but He's right there in the middle of your mess. And if you'll open your heart up to Him and you'll let Him in, I just want to let you know everything's going to be okay. He's going to help you. I'm not saying everything's going to be perfect. I'm not saying everything's going to be wonderful, but everything's going to be okay if you'll let Him into your life.